Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry havoc, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, love boy.
Great Scott. Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Al.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Wow, I messed up the intro there. I didn't finish my edit this morning. That's great. Good job, me. All right, Mustang. Why do I see two of you?
I don't know.
And I mean, I know I accidentally kicked Jed while I was moving things around, but that was my fault. Welcome to Saturday Night Drive-In, where we're professional and we get everything done. I'm a little annoyed. I screwed up my intro there. I didn't finish the bells and whistles on it. I just slapped the picture down, got up, I did something else, came back, and Mustang's gone again. We're off to a great start, aren't we?
Oh yeah, an amazing start. I feel like we're very professional here at the Renaissance Nerd. We're not boomers at all. We're not.
No,
you know, we know exactly what's going on.
What's going on is that we're here to celebrate Star Wars. It's the end of May. We're coming up a few days away from the 40th anniversary of the release of Return of the Jedi. And so we're going to celebrate Return of the Jedi today. And on Thursday this week, upcoming Thursday, we celebrate Real Star Wars Day, where we're going to have a big-ass stream for that. Jed, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, exhausted as always, but there's nothing new there. I've come to expect it. It's just my norm at this point to stay up into the wee hours of the morning doing work for Jeremy, him letting me know, hey, we're playing Fortnite in 5 minutes. Come. It's not do you want to come, it's come. So it's what I've come to expect at this point, but having fun. I might be on 4 streams today, bro. 4 streams. Damn. So I'm gonna be tired. But we'll see how it all goes. But I'm excited to be here talking about Return of the Jedi because I, hyped up it a little bit last week, seeing what my thoughts on it would be this time. And I think I'm surprised about my reaction as well. Again, 2 weeks in a row.
I have most of the same thoughts I always have, but a couple extra things I threw in today. I don't know. Make up your mind. Which one are you?
Don't ask me.
Which one are you? I don't know. How are you doing? You seem to be, I thought we were fine, but how are you?
Don't ask me what just happened. This was StreamYards. I watched it kick 2 screens, and I'm not touching anything.
Well, that's a weird Yoda piece of artwork there. Is that AI art?
Thank you. Yeah, it's AI.
It makes sense.
Something a little off. Like it looks like he just took a dump in the top of your toilet and he's waiting for you to find out. That's what it looks like. I got you, grin. That's what it
Wait a
looks
minute.
like.
Are you saying that my Yoda looks like Dermy?
Hey.
Yes.
I didn't. Oh, whoa. Okay, I don't know about that. I don't know what Dermy's bathroom habits are. I don't know. Anyway, so welcome one and all to Saturday Night Drive-In. We hope that this is a nice little break for everybody from the regular crap, the regular downturns of everything we love, where we just take an hour or so to celebrate things that we love and have a good time, and make sure that you have a good time too. So we hope you enjoy the rest of the show. And so before we do that, let's say hail and howdy to the chat. Hail to Algrima Strong. Welcome, good sir. Yeah, I want to talk about the opening when we start this. That's where we're going to start. We're going to actually start at the beginning of the movie. I know, fascinating. Hail the Goddess Legionist, one of my mods, along with Mustang here, one of my regulars. Hail to Kale, good afternoon. Hail Stephen Watson, good, and Lyle Hammock. Hail Lyle Hammock. Yeah, we are going to have some fun talking about this stuff here. There will be no discussion of Disney Star Wars, because that's for tomorrow on the round table, where some great stories just dropped today. That's gonna be a good one tomorrow, but that's tomorrow. Today, Return of the Jedi. When I was a kid, this was my favorite for my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
For all the obvious reasons. It was my favorite. When I got older, Empire became my favorite. But I still had a great time just watching this yesterday, and I finished it today. I had to break it up. But Jed, you said this has been the first time since you had seen in a long time, like Empire, correct?
Yes. Yep. Same deal. I haven't seen any of these since before Rise of Skywalker came out was the last time. So yeah, it's been a long time. And just like you're saying, growing up, this one was always my favorite Star Wars movie as well. I like the emotional beats of it. And after last week, I thought that might have changed, because I liked Empire a lot more than I had previously this time.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, I'll probably like Empire more than Jedi now. Now I'm a little bit more critical, watching Jedi for the first time in a while. And it's not true. Jedi's still my favorite.
Nice.
Jedi is still my favorite.
I'm okay with that, because listen, I can count my criticisms on one hand in less than 5 of this movie. I have 2 or 3 small criticisms. Some of them are common knowledge. Some of them are my own personal beefs, I think. But this is one of the things where it's hard to find a problem. But I still love this movie. I love just about everything in it. And when you watch everything and you encompass it all, you really do see the full story in bloom here, and the characters and how they've all grown. There are certain key moments that define our characters, where they started in A New Hope and where they are here in Jedi. I mean, Mustang, you were a full-grown man when this came out. Not a wee lad like myself, or a twinkle in somebody's eye like Jed was. How did you feel? We talked about this last time, because you joined us last time. Thank you again for being here today. I asked you, how did it feel when Empire came out and the whole stories about people learning that Vader was his father? How was it? Because I'm too young to remember. How was it with Jedi concluding the cinema story of Star Wars?
It was several different reactions. There were people that were quiet because they were, most of us had tears in our eyes. And to me, it still brings a tear to your eye. It was the perfect completion to a story. We didn't need anything beyond this. But it was, a lot of people were quiet because it was a happy ending, and they were happy. People were just happy. And normally if you're in a theater and people are quiet at the end, it's either because they were super happy or it was a bad show. This one, people were smiling, walking out. They were happy. The whole thing was, it just left you happy at the time. Everybody was, it was just joy.
And then people went and bought merch. People went and bought merch.
Yes.
I was living in New York City. It's where my parents were living at the time. It was a double feature, Empire Jedi. I remember the marquee clear as day. And afterwards, as the story goes, I'm told, because it's still, the memory's there, but everything kind of blurs together. Right afterwards, my dad, my real dad, we took us to FAO Schwartz and bought me a bucket load of toys. Legion of Stormtroopers, all the major characters, beginning first couple of vehicles that would one day grow to everything. Bought me stuff, and then I remember coming home, and in the following days and weeks, just on the floor, figures everywhere. I had that giant Darth Vader figure carrying case. It was great. It was fun. And then at the time, the story's over. I played my own stories. I played my own versions because that's what you did when you had this stuff. You just played your own stuff. It was great. It was fantastic. And when you got bigger collections, you replayed scenes. I'd replay Jabba's palace all the time. I'd replay the battle between Vader and Luke. I'd do it all. I loved it. I loved it. So much so that I wish I could have this feeling again when something's over, but here's the problem today. Nothing's ever done these days. Things just kind of keep going. There's never a solid conclusion. And I think that's why Star Wars was so it really was something special in 83 when George put on the cinematic side of it a definitive conclusion. Done.
Well, for me specifically, this is the second one released on my birthday. I'm sitting there going, does George know my family? I mean, the original and this one both released on May 25th. I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. So, as I wasn't an adult, unlike some people, you knew Moses, I didn't. But it was something special. This show was very special and still is very special to me.
Yeah. Well, that sense of finality that you get from Jedi, it's unusual, just like you're saying in the modern day, because Hollywood's so corporatized that they can always milk more money out of a franchise. But Lucas, of all the directors in Hollywood from his era, even more than Spielberg, I'd say he was definitely more the artist than the businessman, because with his fighting with the Union, his Union fights are a clear sign of that. He was not willing to sacrifice his vision for a Union, and that screwed him over several times. But it's a way that I respect him a lot for it, because his vision was most important. And even with the prequels, as much as his vision had a lot of issues, it was still him being a creative person. It wasn't killed because of corporatization or studio oversight. And so you can respect the prequels from that aspect, if nothing else.
Yeah, the only problem with the prequels is that he didn't have the people that reined him in from going too far and doing stuff that kind of didn't make sense sometimes, which is what a lot of good creatives do. That's why we have pre-readers. That's why we bounce ideas off people. That's why we do something, take a step back and come back and say, okay, wow, that kind of doesn't make sense. And George is one of those creatives that needs handlers. He needs somebody to say, whoa, George, don't do that. Don't do that. Take it in this direction instead.
Jed brings up the perfect thing. We did not want sequels. We wanted what came before, what led up to the Empire. We wanted those. We don't. Everything after Jedi could have never happened, and people would have been in heaven and happy, and the story's done.
Yeah.
Now, we'll talk about this particular angle of continuing Star Wars after Return of the Jedi next Thursday when we talk EU and all that kind of stuff. But that's the discussion. We don't want to get too far away from talking Jedi. We want to stay focused on that. But it really is a fascinating thing as a whole. And I'll conclude my thoughts on this and save the rest for next Thursday. How you can have something so perfectly, have a perfect bow tied on it, had that brilliant, beautiful shot of everybody celebrating the victory, and people be satisfied, yet a decade later have the EU start and be thrilled and perfectly happy that there's more story to tell. More story approved by George Lucas, which what separates the EU from Disney Star Wars. And with that, we'll table that discussion until Thursday. So here we go. Return of the Jedi. I want to start off with this. I mentioned it. We were talking before. Now that we've been through all three movies in one way, shape, or form on this format of this show, it is my opinion that Return of the Jedi has the best opening sequence out of all three movies. There's something about Vader arriving at the Death Star. The guys in the chat have already been mentioning it. His dialogue, the exchange between Vader and the commander in charge of the Death Star construction, it is so perfect for me. Vader has great dialogue. I mean, remember, back in the day, we hadn't really seen Palpatine yet. We knew very little about him. All we had was the communique during Empire Strikes Back. Now we learn the Emperor is coming here. The Emperor is not as forgiving as I am. And we're thinking, shit, Vader's forgiving? Vader's forgiving? Yeah. Whoa, who is this Emperor now we're going to see? Back in the day and for years afterwards, we didn't have it. The arrival of Palpatine was something important, something monumental. That's why you always want to watch the OT first, then watch the prequel trilogy. So you don't have too much Palpatine if you're watching it for the first time. You want that idea. And when he arrives later, it's just, who is this old dude? Is this the person everybody's afraid of? I don't get this when you're seeing it first time. But that opening sequence, the mix of the Imperial March and a little bit more, again, it's John Williams just knocking it out of the park. And you're pulled in instantly. And where's the brilliance of understanding where you are in this series of movies? This is the third movie. Return of the Jedi wastes zero time diving right in. We don't need to establish anybody. Vader comes marching down that ramp. It's Darth Vader. I don't need an explanation. I don't need any sort of any added information. He's Darth Vader. We have a second Death Star. The Emperor is coming. Let's roll. I mean, how do you guys feel at the beginning of this one?
I would agree for the most part that it has probably the best opening. It depends on how you want to quantify the opening of New Hope. Like if we continue New Hope all the way through Luke looking at the twin suns, then I'd give it to New Hope. But if it's just like the opening 5-10 minutes.
I'm talking the opening 5 minutes.
Yeah,
like right
Jedi has it hands down, no question.
Yeah.
Asked over the attack on Leia's shuttle. Because just the power of it. It sets up a lot. Like saying that Vader is, subservient to the Emperor, setting up a lot of those beats there. And it's impressive compared to modern movies, how it does, like you said, we don't need a setup. We don't need to waste time. Sequels these days spend so much time reestablishing stuff that the audience should already know. But Lucas, I mean, it's a simple thing that people used to do all the time, but he trusted his audience to remember what happened in previous movies. It's that simple.
Yeah.
We don't need to be like, hey, this Death Star, it's not going to blow up like the last one, which got blown up by Luke Skywalker, who did this thing. Like that would absolutely be some expositional dialogue in a modern sequel because people forgot New Hope. No, it's ridiculous. So I would agree. This one definitely feels like it has a faster pace too, just overall. Like the beginning and the end of the movie, it doesn't stop.
You are, dude, you're right on my train of thought. I had that thought myself. Jedi just kind of there's a small lull at the end of Act 2 when our heroes encounter the Ewoks, but that's it. The rest, and by lull, I don't mean bad. I just mean things slow down. The intensity is over. The tension is gone. But you are absolutely right. I was thinking that myself yesterday. The movie just keeps going at a clip, doesn't stop. Kind of the. I mean, and you see why. Lucas copied that feeling in Revenge of the Sith. He did the same thing. The movie, we're at the peak. We're at the end. Keep going. Don't stop. Now, Mustang, what are your thoughts on this?
Had it not been for the opening scroll, this would have been a cold opening and probably the first one I can remember other than Jaws. This had that Spielberg cold opening, scare the living hell out of you feel to it, and still does to this day.
Yeah, but of course you have to have the opening crawl. It's Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crawl. You can't get rid of it. But
I will tell you, as somebody who remembers it, we didn't have to be reminded because the commercials, the lead up, the double features, so many things going on. We didn't need to be told. We knew. The audience is not stupid, and that is what Hollywood screws up today. They think the audience can't remember 2-minute commercials.
Think about it. The audience they've cultivated is stupid. The stand base is stupid. The Star-Tards are stupid. They need to be programmed. They need to be told this stuff. They need that 5-second trailer for the trailer. that we all roll our eyes at these days.
It's worse than that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. When we have a show right now, any TV series, when they break from commercial and they come back, they show you the first 30 seconds of what you left 2 minutes ago.
That happens. I mean, some anime shows have done that. One Piece, Bleach, they're famous for that back in the day of repeating a couple minutes. That's just for something like One Piece, that was to draw out time because they're always catching up to the source material. But it's such a powerful opening because you don't expect it. That's the other thing. The scroll tells you there's a new, more powerful Death Star, but you didn't expect to see this Vader marching in and then seeing the Emperor's coming. To me, it's unexpected the first time you see it, and then you get to the rest of the story, where you know you're going, the rescue of Han Solo from Jabba. That's where you know you're going, which is just Here's the thing: I find it so fascinating that we have this moment where, again, like with Empire, we had. Everything going on in Empire isn't about the rebellion. It's about these individual characters who just happen to be our heroes and some of the most important people involved in the rebellion. But here we are. The first act, the rescuing of Han, has nothing to do with the war effort. Nothing at all. It's just we're here to save our friend, our loved one. And some people hail that this is the strongest part of the movie, the first act. How do you guys feel about that, Jed?
I would not agree whatsoever. I love the opening act, but you can't get better than the Luke Vader fight, the throne room stuff. That is the best part of the movie. So, I mean, yeah, the Ewoks are stupid, but the Ewoks are nowhere near enough to counterbalance the greatness of the throne room stuff. And then you've got Lando and the space battle. That's my favorite space battle in Star Wars. No question.
Yeah, I want to talk about that later. Yeah.
Act 3, I think, is far, far superior to Act 1. I love Act 1, but it can't hold the candle to Act 3 for me, at least.
That's fine. Mustang.
Luke meeting his father on the planet. That, to me, the confrontation right there, that's more powerful than Act 1. That scared the hell out of me. It's like, oh my God, is Vader right there?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's my favorite scene in the original trilogy.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I tend to agree with you. Even though my favorite scene is The Return of the Jedi, and I say that because that was the title of the track on my old CD, where Luke, the battle at the sail barge. That was the title on the track, Return of the Jedi. I love that just because it's Luke, it's full hero Luke, and he just owns everything. He's a one-man army, and what I love about it is that you see how powerful a Jedi can be for the first time, really, in the original trilogy. Obi-Wan, he's at the end of his career, end of his life. He has a couple of cool moments, but he's not doing grandiose stuff. In Empire, Luke, Yoda, he's just training. We see no action, and for a lot of reasons. With the puppeteer, you can only go so far with old school puppeteering. And Luke is still, for lack of a better term, he's still a Padawan. Yeah, come with the term yet, but we're going to say that he's still a Padawan learner. He doesn't have that, and Vader is so overpowering. But the battle at the sail barge, this is a Jedi Knight, or almost Jedi. He has to complete his trials. Jedi, when R2 fires off the lightsaber and he grabs it and you see, whoa, that's a new lightsaber. And then when he ignited it and it's green, that set me through the ceiling. I was so happy, like, oh my God, it's green! Because all we'd seen is blue and red of this time lightsabers. It's green. This is awesome. And the music is high impact. It's great, and you're drawn in, and you're on the edge of your seat, and he's just owning everything. Even the brief confrontation with Boba Fett is badass in that moment. And he give Boba Fett credit because Boba Fett knows how to fight a Force user, and he used tricks and tactics. But Luke took advantage of the chaos, and then Boba's unfortunate temporary end, because Boba Fett lives. He lived before Disney Star Wars made him alive. Just remember that. Yep. But the whole thing, I love it all. That's my favorite scene, just because of the impact. But I'm right there with you later on of everything Luke, Vader, Palpatine, throne competition. That is, it's another level. That's why I agree with you guys. I do not agree with a certain certain perspective out there that Return of the Jedi falls apart in the second and third act. I don't agree with that.
No,
I don't agree with that either.
Wholly disagree. The majority of people who say stuff like that focus on the Ewoks as being the problem.
Yeah.
And second act Ewoks isn't that bad. Second act, I don't really have an issue with the Ewoks in the second act. I mean, they're a little weird, but most people refer to them fighting the stormtroopers in the third act as when the movie falls apart.
I disagree.
It's dumb to a certain extent, but there's just so much else great going on that I'm able to forgive it. And it's not narrative breaking. It's not narrative breaking.
Here's why I don't think it's dumb. And remember, this is basically 40 years worth of feelings on this. Watching this as a little kid over and over again. I don't hate Ewoks the way some people do. And I think some people feel, especially people who might be even a little bit older than I, feel angry about it because they know that it should have been Kashyyyk and it should have been Wookiees.
Oh, so, I 100% agree. That would have been far, far superior.
That would have been.
I'm the older person here.
Yeah. Well, hang on. So there's that. I know. Well, okay. I know that's a reason a lot of people have Mustang. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about?
I'm calling bullshit, and I'm calling everyone that's saying that a fucking liar right here to their faces because you weren't around for it. There was no Kashyyyk. There was no Wookiees. We had Ewoks, and we all loved them, and they sold merch like crazy. So you people who've watched it after, you weren't there for the beginning. Enjoy what was there. We didn't have the EU. We didn't have any of the Disney bullshit. We had a great story with little furry shits running around that made us laugh, and we all went out and bought the merch.
Well, it is a truth that George wanted it to be Wookiees. He just decided not to do it.
Yeah, that has been confirmed, and that was confirmed.
George, well, I mean,
nobody knew it at the time. Now. I'm going with what we knew at the time.
Obviously, when the movie came out, they didn't know.
No, what obviously. I'm saying that George did want to do Wookiees, he ended up doing it, and of course there was no Kashyyyk because Kashyyyk hadn't been created as a world yet. But it was supposed to be. He wanted to be Wookiees, but he changed his mind and went the way with Ewoks, which I don't have a problem with. I was okay with it. And let's think about it like this now. Think about it like this. One, Ewoks may be furry fuzzballs, but
pretty much.
I finished watching it this afternoon because I told you I split up my watching yesterday and today, and I was watching Battle of Endor. I think retards have chimpanzee retard monkey strength. I think they have chimpanzee retard monkey strength.
I will tell you the only problem with it that I can remember from all of Return was somebody had brought up that the Ewoks language was some foreign, I think African or something like that. Somebody had an African language.
Kabuki-uki.
Yeah, it was drawn on from a real language. But my biggest problem with it is more in hindsight. Like, if Disney hadn't existed, this wouldn't be a problem. But like when Kenobi came out, and there was a woman who defeated a stormtrooper by pulling on her chin, or the stormtrooper's chin,
the helmet thing,
slapped one of them, and it knocked it out. They were using the Ewoks to justify that.
That's
nonsense.
bullshit. The Ewoks. That's why I think. That's why I'm watching them. I was watching them fight today. In the physical, when they physically got where like maybe a couple of them would double team a stormtrooper, especially with the ones that were with Chewie and got in the ATST. They got on that guy. They beat him the fuck down. The one that Chewie didn't toss out. They got him there. They beat him up and knocked him out. He's unconscious before Chewie even gets in there. They got a retard chimpanzee monkey strength. I'm telling you. Now, on top of that also, I don't F with Ewoks. I'll admit, I was watching when Jeremy and Beardo and Drunk and Roller were playing Battlefront 2 earlier in the week. I was watching that night because actually it's like, oh, you're not playing Fortnite, you're playing something I might actually enjoy. I'm gonna watch it. I want to watch you guys shoot shit in Star Wars. And they did the thing that Drunk wanted, that Jay wanted to do, the Ewok hunt thing. And that reminded me, Ewoks are vicious little bastards. They will effing eat you. They want to eat you. They were gonna eat our heroes. They were gonna be dinner.
They're Harfoots.
They're Harfoots. They're not cannibals. They're just omnivores. I would say Ewoks are omnivores. They'll eat anything.
You two explain something to me. Why do we have to have all these people that weren't around for the film when it released have to try and judge it against today's standards and what we know from the EU and things that came after? Can't we judge it on the merits of it being at that time?
No, because they can't. I actually have.
Well, they can all kiss Kathleen Kennedy's ass. I will
You're angry about
defend the
this.
old.
You're angry
Oh
about
yeah,
this.
I will defend the old Star Wars and old shows. Judge them on the merits of the time and what they had. Don't judge them on what you want them to be or your fucking truth, because it ain't.
You could get it from that movie though. They will eat you. They're omnivores, and don't tell me during the finale, during the final moments when they're playing the helmet drums. Don't tell me they didn't eat those bitches. They ate them. They freaking ate them. They ate them.
Dude, those clones were turned into clone sushi.
Oh, those aren't clones anymore. Those are regular troopers at that point. They were regular conscriptions and training planets at that point. They weren't clones anymore. But they ate them. They ate them. Ewoks are vicious little bastards. They're vicious. They're vicious. I will say they're vicious. And to me, the whole Battle of Endor works, and they're able to win because it's freaking chaos in that forest. I was gonna say jungle. It's a forest. It's chaos in there, and they know the terrain. And granted, sometimes it's silliness where they're trying to drop rocks on an ATST and nothing's happening, of course, but they don't understand the difference. But on some of the more other things, when 10 of them swarm, when 10 or 20 of them swarm like 10 stormtroopers, they devour them. Literally, they eat them. They eat them. I'm not letting that go. But I'm okay with it. I've always been okay with Ewoks, especially because freaking John Williams, the Ewok score, the Battle of Endor score is just epic.
Yes, yes,
especially at the turn. I mean, and it's brilliant. Of course, Chewie gets most valuable player in the Battle of Endor on the ground. At the bunker battle, he gets most valuable player because it's when he takes that ATSD that it turns around. When Chewie gets the ATSD, he turns the battle around, and the Ewoks get the upper hand because they've got all their traps in place by now. They start luring everybody in there, and then Williams beautifully scores it where the tone of the battle shifts, and you're going, yeah. I love it. I love the Battle of Endor. I think it's great. It works.
I don't know, man. That black wizard looking Ewok, he was pretty cool. I think he played a hell of a fight.
What? The black one in the cockpit with Chewie, the one that's petting.
Yeah, the one that was like he reminded me of
with
wizard,
his hair.
Man. Yeah.
No. That's Logray. Logray's the wizard. He's the one. He's the tan and white stripe. Okay. No, Logray. Logray was in charge of trying to trip the ATSD when the ATSD pulls them all along as it keeps walking. That was Logray. Logray's down there.
Okay.
Hey, dude. I know. I watched the Ewoks cartoon as a kid, man. I know my Ewoks.
It's dedication.
That's where you had an advantage over me. I was a little older than you for Ewoks cartoon.
Dude, that Ewok cartoon I thought was the greatest thing in the world when I was a kid. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
Did they eat anybody?
No, they didn't because it was kid friendly.
Oh.
But
they did bring up something important in the chat. How did they have a dress that fit Leia unless they had eaten someone recently?
Oh no. Where is that?
It was that Legatus.
Oh my god! Honestly, I was thinking about that. I thought, I guess they sewed it together for her pretty quick. That was my thought. I don't know.
I prefer that interpretation from Legatus.
Yeah, but Legatus, you're going to a dark place, dude. You're going to a dark place. We don't want to do it. We don't want to go there. Let's talk then. Let's do what we didn't do service to last week because we got caught up in other story topics before we ran out of time. Luke Skywalker. This is the full evolution of his character.
Mm-hmm. This is my favorite Luke by far out of the three movies.
Yeah. His entire personality is different in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's calm, collected. He doesn't panic. He's sure of himself in just about every situation. But still sometimes can make mistakes. I mean, perfect example on Endor. Nobody stops Chewie from grabbing the piece of meat, the dead animal. They all get sucked up. His Jedi danger sense didn't activate then. But Luke he's not the farm boy anymore.
Mm-mm.
Not the farm boy anymore. Jed, when he arrives in Jabba's palace, do you feel the purpose making him look a little more sinister is proper? Because he's very sinister when he arrives.
Well, yeah, and that's a theme throughout a lot of the movie. Like, again, Mustang, don't freak out at me, but these are some behind-the-scenes interviews that I've seen with George Lucas where he talked about considering whether or not he should have Luke go evil. I've seen him talking about that. And throughout the movie, there's a lot of those moments. And having him wear black at that time was very much only bad guys wear black. And Vader's wearing black. So they were hyping up, is he going to turn evil? And that goes along with the original title. What was the original title? That was
Revenge
a lot
of the
darker.
Sith.
Revenge of the
Revenge of the Jedi. Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah, Revenge of the Jedi.
Revenge of the Jedi.
Which would have been a lot darker version of the movie. And he talks about the costume, making him black.
You can't find, it's very hard to find this version of the poster, which is my favorite poster in Jedi, without it saying Revenge of the Jedi. Back in the day when I was a kid, they all said Return of the Jedi, but now the majority of ones when you sort of look for these say Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So,
I do love that title, but it doesn't go with the tone.
No.
The tone change he went with. Return is definitely better for the heroic send-off that it has. And George talked about, how he's wearing black. The audience should be questioning the whole movie on whether or not he will turn to the dark side or turn darker at least. And then at the very end, after he beats Vader, his shirt pops open and reveals that it's white underneath, and it was white the whole time, and he was never going to turn evil. I've heard conversations about that was intentional costume design.
Yeah, well, I can't be mad at you, Chad, because the everything leading up to it, we were seeing the black Luke. We were questioning it. We didn't. This is not something to get upset about. This is something I think you're making a mistake on with me. This is something we as the fans and the people of that time, we were seeing this going, oh crap, we know who his father is now. Did that change him? Did it make him dark? Did it turn him to the dark? We didn't know. We were questioning that, and it was awesome. So no, there's nothing to get mad about there. That was great.
The chat brings up a great point. The first time we see Luke, he uses dark side power. He does force choke on the Gamorrean guards.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've seen, and again, I've seen some stupid shit try to explain away. Oh, that wasn't a dark side power. No, that was force choke. That's a dark
force choke's dark side. Period.
That's dark side. And the most important thing though is that this entire movie, and I know some might say it doesn't start until after he goes Dagobah. This entire movie is Luke's trials. This is his trial, whether or not he's gonna find his way to being a Jedi or he's gonna fall, because he's in conflict. But after he rescues Han and goes Dagobah, then he's in conflict because Yoda says to him, "You must face Vader and the Emperor." And the problem is, Yoda didn't prepare him to face Palpatine. Didn't prepare him. Because if he prepared him, Luke would not have thrown away his lightsaber in the throne room. Because I think Yoda forgot to train him how to deal with Force lightning. If all you have is your basic set, if you're at a certain level and all you have is your lightsaber. Because if Luke had known Palps was going to shoot lightning, he wouldn't have tossed away his lightsaber. Now that, of course, is the whole reveal of what can at that point in the movie, Lucas just beat down Darth Vader, and we'll talk about the exchange in a moment. I just want to get this point out of the way. Beats down Darth Vader, turns around. What's this hunched old man going to do? What's he going to do? He needs a cane half the time to walk. What are you going to do? I'm a Jedi. Yeah, even without my lightsaber, I can take you. Oh, sorry. Unlimited power. But that is that we'll get back to that. But the whole Luke's coming to grips with everything and the conversation with Yoda. Yoda still playing what's a good word? Still dodging all the facts right up to the end. He doesn't want to. Yeah, he's dying, but he doesn't want to seem to get it all out there. Which keeps Luke in conflict. Right at the point he says, "I can't kill my own father. How can I do this without Yoda?" And then comes Ben, and here's a very important moment there. And I always key this again. The evolution. I'm talking about the evolution of Luke. Yoda will always be with you. He turns around. First was out of his mouth, Obi-Wan. Yes, he calls him Ben later in the conversation, but he says Obi-Wan, understanding that I'm looking at you right now as the Jedi Master, not just old Ben. You're Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the heroes of the Clone Wars, great Jedi master and my original mentor. And that's showing you that Luke is no longer the wide-eyed farm boy. He's not the Padawan who needs to be pointed in a direction to do stuff like was an Empire. I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm on the cusp of being a Jedi. Not Jedi Knight, not just a Jedi Knight, not a Jedi Master. I'm going to acknowledge you as Obi-Wan. And then that conversation, Mustang, that conversation, how did you feel about the Obi-Wan Luke conversation back then?
It's been a long time ago. What I can always remember is the exchange with Luke and Yoda saying he told you. That really meant a lot more than the Ben conversation, because we already had inklings of Force Ghosts and knowing that stuff. So the Ben coming in, it didn't have that impact on me. And him calling him Obi-Wan, he already knew that. That was no big deal to me.
No, not know that. I'm talking about that. That's acknowledging. I'm not. To me, that's the evolution of his character. That I'm not the wide-eyed boy, and I'm not going to simply call you Ben, my old buddy. I'm calling you Obi-Wan because I'm one Jedi talking to another. That's
for me. It was as older and age gone on, it was almost insulting him. Of you were my father's trainer. You screwed up.
Oh, Obi-Wan admits he screwed up. Hell, I'm gonna have discussions next Thursday that Yoda monumentally fucked everything up. That Yoda, as great as Yoda is, has a lot to blame for the Sith victory that led to the Empire. But that's Thursday talk. But what I mean is that conversation, both on the story-wise and the practical reasons they have that conversation. The whole idea, the whole concept of certain point of view has to come into play because, let's be honest, this conversation is created so George can get out of the corner he wrote himself into in A New Hope.
Oh, yeah.
That's why this conversation exists. That's what I was getting to with this one. I love Obi-Wan and Luke's exchange, because I feel it's an exchange of equals, not of the wide-eyed farm boy to the venerable Jedi. It's an exchange of equals, and Obi-Wan treating him like a man now, not hiding things from him where he thought he had to before. But also in reality, the whole thing is created to get out of the Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father from a certain point of view, because he became Darth Vader. He then killed Anakin by becoming Darth Vader. So, I mean, Jed, how do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, it's a difficult situation that he was put in, and the story needed him to address it, and he addressed it in the best way possible, because the reasoning that Obi-Wan gives is legitimate. Like, I could totally see this mentality, and we've seen it in a lot of stuff, is when you change a character in a drastic manner, it's metaphorically killing who he used to be. So having a Jedi who exists in this very, not ethereal, but in this spiritual manner, recognizing the death of the man he used to be, the death of his old spirit, makes so much sense. So yes, it's a tough situation, but he addressed it in a very talented way that I don't have any problems with. The biggest problem that most people have with it is true from a certain point of view. If he had just left that out and been like, the man he was dead, killed by Vader, that would have been more than enough. So
you might have changed that dialogue line just a little bit.
Just a little bit. The concept's perfect. I love the explanation. Just tweak the dialogue a little bit. And again, I used to watch a lot of George Lucas interviews about stuff like this. And something that he mentioned about this scene and the Yoda scene prior to it, more so the Yoda one, but he talked to child psychologists to see how they would react to the whole Luke is your father deal. And the child psychologist apparently told him that a lot of children are going to have difficulty believing that he's telling the truth, that Vader's telling the truth. So he decided to incorporate a person of authority, or in this case, two persons of authority, both Yoda and Obi-Wan, to establish it and reconfirm it for the children out there. Because Jedi is definitely the change in the franchise to be more child-oriented, not for children. I think that's an important distinction to be made, but a lot more child-oriented than the series had been prior. So the conversations with the child psychologist was part of his way of making sure that it was clear and worked for children moving forward. And so it is important. I do think besides the second act slow point, like you talked about, this is the slowest point in the movie. Besides that, and we need it. We need the explanation. It does slow down the story, so it's kind of something that I have mixed feelings on overall this entire Dagobah sequence. But whether or not it's from a child's perspective, we all needed a little bit of an authority figure to confirm it, because why should we trust Vader?
We didn't believe it.
I saw it in the chat. I think Stephen Wanta said a little while ago, people were convinced Vader was lying back in the day, that it had to be a lie. It couldn't be real. Therefore, this had to be once the first act was done, and we're in the second act, and we're now establishing we've done the side quest is over, because saving Han, it's a side quest. Side quest is over. We're back in the main story, back on the main quest line. We have to address the giant breathing elephant in the room. Is Darth Vader really my father? Yes, he's your father. Told you, did he? But it works because you have now this conflict set up. Luke is on. Well, here's the beauty of it. They tell him, Obi-Wan and Yoda tell him, you have to face Darth Vader and the Emperor. Nobody tells Luke he has to kill Vader. You realize that? They just said, you have to face him. Because, again, we're applying a little bit of outside terminology that didn't exist back then, but that's his trial. Will you give into the dark side? Murdering your father, even if it's in a duel, killing your father, that will put you into the dark side, even for a good reason. It's that corruption of the act would take you over. And of course, in doing that, the emotions that would be wrapped up in Luke killing Vader would be dark side emotions, anger, fear, aggression, hate. It would be he'd been brought that push over. That's why Palps is pushing him so hard, because Vader's on. He is peaked in his power at this point. He's on the decline because of he's more machine now. He can't hold what little flesh and blood he has left. He can't channel the Force as powerfully as he could when he was whole body Anakin. Luke is younger, stronger, and we'll talk about the fight. I had a debate with a guy about this once, about the duel compared to Bespin and Throne Room. But Luke is stronger, but Palps realizes if he can get him to kill Vader, the emotions he's feeling, that will drive him to the dark side. And then, like your father, you are now mine. That's his end game, to make Luke his. And maybe one day possess his body, because that's always Palpatine's goal, to possess somebody. And that's actual lore, not Disney lore. That is Palpatine's goal. That's EU lore.
Well, and then there's the whole context you keep referring to, that Vader has stunted Force developments because of his cybernetic nature. So having a pure Skywalker, non-cybernetic, as a new apprentice.
Except for the hand.
Except for the hand.
But the hand is great, because when he puts on the glove on the way to Dagobah, and you forget about it for the rest of the movie, that he's the glove on the hand. But when he is during the fight, after he's beat Vader down, he sees the hand he chopped off, and he looks at the hand. And it took a lot of years. Maybe it's because it was poor sound quality until one day I heard it. When he looks at Vader in shock of what he's done, and then looks at his hand and goes like this, you could hear the machinery in the hand move.
I love that.
It took again, maybe because it was poor audio quality of the VHS and the TVs I was on for years, but it was a long time before I actually heard that and realized how impactful it is to hear him doing that, and Luke realizes, oh shit, if I do this, I become that. And we go back to Empire and the failure at the cave. The Force was telling him way back in Empire, if you fight Darth Vader with aggression, if you kill him, you will become him. Beautiful. I love it. Well, that's good, simple storytelling. Not complicated, just a nice little hero's test in the hero's journey.
Well, and this scene is also one of my favorite parts of the movie because it exemplifies subtlety to a further extent. And again, trusting the audience. We mentioned it a little bit last week with Vader. We understand his emotions when he's, at the very end of the movie communicating with Luke through the Force and Luke says father for the first time. There's a lot of subtlety in Vader's performance. In this movie, there's several examples of that as well, like the conversation when Luke and Vader first meet up in that hallway after Luke turns himself in. There's so much subtlety to Vader's performance, yet Lucas trusts the audience to figure out exactly what he's feeling. And the same thing with that hand squeeze. It's a simple thing. It's like, oh yeah, a character squeezes his hand. You just hear that, you're like, what am I supposed to draw from that? He squeezes his hand. But there's context, just like you said, there's build up to that. And there's subtlety and a performance with Mark Hamill. I think Jedi is Mark Hamill's best performance. And in that moment, there's just so much going on in his face. And we don't need a flashback to the cave, just like you're talking about. We don't need to see a vision of Luke as Vader, as you would get in a Disney trilogy movie. It's just he squeezes his hand, and there's so much power behind it. So subtlety, I think this movie exemplifies the power of subtle storytelling to a degree that the predecessors didn't, at least to this extent.
To answer Lyle's statement here, I think that Obi-Wan and Yoda were that was the basis for the trial. They can't tell if they tell him to kill, then that's not the Jedi way. A Jedi fights only in defense. To say that face your father, that's Luke is the one thinking that has to end in death, because remember at this point he hasn't decided to save him yet. I don't think when he's on Dagobah, he doesn't get that until he senses Vader on Endor. And he remembers, and he can sense the conflict at that point. And I think it's reconfirmed, as Jed said in the corridor, the hallway discussion, is when Luke decides, I need to save him. And I think that's the trial. That's Luke's trial. He thinks he has to kill, but he has to get past that thought that victory doesn't mean killing Darth Vader. It means saving him. I think that was a trial, and he passes it. And I think Obi-Wan and Yoda were purposefully evasive on that, or just not being specific. Because we have that in the OT alone here. Obi-Wan and Yoda, their character format already tells you that they're gonna leave. They're gonna tell you the truth, but it's truth through what's the term? What's the word? Leaving. When you leave something out.
By omission.
Truth with omission. Thank you, Jed. Truth with omission. They're omitting key parts because it's part of the training. It's part of the test. So that's why I think that I think they purposefully didn't do it. I didn't do it. Mustang. When do you think? Like I said, I think Luke was. I don't think he decided to save his father till Endor. When do you think Luke decided to test himself on that, in terms of making the choice to not kill? When do you think he first did it?
I think he did it when it was confirmed through both Yoda and Ben that was his father. He was not going to kill him. He was going to turn him back. He was going to help him. He had already felt conflict on Vespa. He'd felt it. He felt the conflict in Vader in that first fight. He was already setting his mind towards, I will kill him if I have to, but I want to turn him. He is my father. And somebody said in chat a while ago that would the people accept Vader back? That's a really good question that has never been able to be answered.
I've seen that there is an alternate reality comic out there where like white armored Vader who survived or something like that, and he helped out. It's an alternate reality, alternate telling thing.
That's weird.
It's weird. Well, it kind of goes. There was a really cool comic. I remember I was in a Beat Dalton once, and I found it was a trade paperback of a bunch of Star Wars comics, but it was alternate reality ones, and one of them was Dark Side Leia, where Vader had discovered Leia was his daughter and picked her up way before anything and trained her before Luke. And I don't remember much of it. I just skimmed through it, but it was a really cool premise in it as an Elseworlds type of thing. I should try and go find that one day, just out of curiosity, because it looked interesting. I just thumbed through it. I didn't spend more time. I just thumbed through it.
You got to be careful with those comics because there's that one we talked about or saw either on the Roundtable or Mellow Mondays last week about it confirming that Vader knew about Palpatine's clones and his reincarnation. So
that
he
crap.
didn't actually come to the light side. Yeah, they were arguing that Vader never actually turned good. He was manipulating Luke the whole time because he knew Palpatine wasn't dying when he threw him down the shaft.
Yeah, it's bullshit. That's Disney crap. That's Disney.
It is
crap.
Disney.
That's Disney.
It is Disney.
That's Disney. That's Disney trying to use outside material to once again fortify their sequel garbage.
Mm-hmm. And if it were true, that would damage so much. Is Vader knows he's not killing Palpatine. Killing Palpatine is a big deal.
By Disney's definition, I know we're not supposed to talk Disney, but by Disney's definition, Rey was not. I mean, Rey was the ultimate savior. Vader didn't end it, as opposed to George's vision, where Vader does it. Let's talk about then the third act and leading up to the conversation, the hallway scene, the conversation. Now, I want to make a quick statement before I let Jed go in there because he said it was his favorite scene. I have a memory in me when I was a kid. Shut up. I have a memory in there. Now, I don't know if I've told you guys I had stacks of these old Star Wars trading cards that were either red border or blue border. I had stacks of them. My mom just kept buying them for me. I don't know. I don't remember if this was just an image on a that was maybe just cut footage put on there, but I have a memory of Vader and Luke dueling in that hallway. And I've never been able to shake it my entire life. I don't know if it was just maybe a previous cut scene that they decided not to use, that they slapped on one of those trading cards, and that's where I saw it. Or I obviously have never seen the actual scene because they would never have televised it, and all I've ever had is either up until the past decade, it was either VHS versions I had, or I saw it on a screen, or I saw it on TV. So there's no way I ever would have seen that duel. Hey, Mustang, do you know anything about this before we get Douglas?
I want to know what you were smoking, with whom, and how much you were playing.
I was a kid. I didn't smoke anything.
Okay, was it in a Playboy or a Penthouse? Serious question.
No. What are you talking? Where does that come from? I was single
That's
digits.
where you would see.
I was single digits.
I'm just saying, if you saw that someplace.
But no, it was
I
like
want to wear because I want to see it because that would be a pretty cool scene.
I was actual Mark Hamill and David Prowse in the scene. I remember seeing the sabers crossed in that hallway. It's just I don't know where I got that image from, but it's I would say haunted me my entire life, and I don't know where
if it's Hamill and Prowse, they might have been screwing around and somebody caught it. You know, it was never supposed to be part of the movie or anything. And
but they had full ignited lightsabers, and they were dueling in the hallway there. I have this image that I've never been able to. It might have
been them screwing around on set and somebody got it out. Because, I mean, we know for a fact that they used to have somebody walking around with a handheld that would just take shots here and there, people screwing around, having fun. The behind the scenes stuff. I've never seen any of the behind the scenes stuff for Jedi. Have you?
Well, I've seen making of stuff.
Making of, not the behind the scenes. There is a difference between the two.
I usually don't watch behind the scenes things, so I wouldn't.
I love watching behind the scenes. There's 20 hours of them for Lord of the Rings, and I've watched them over and over again.
Those are so good.
I was just putting it out there if anybody else had ever seen this. Or
I have no idea.
Well, it was more to Mustang because of course, you wouldn't have seen them. But
if it's Prowse himself, and you're seeing David Prowse. That would be a behind the scenes.
Well, not the Prowse. I mean, when I say Prowse, I had to be Prowse because who else was in the full Vader getup in that picture back then? Nobody but him. So, and it was just that scene in that hallway, and I swear I remember them having the lightsabers out, and there was a duel or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Nothing
That's
I've
why
ever heard of.
I'm putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there. Maybe somebody will watch this and corroborate where I saw it. Maybe, like you said, maybe it was cut footage. Maybe it was them screwing around. Maybe it was them practicing something. And George said, "Nah, never mind." But somebody filmed it or took a picture of it, and I feel like it made its way onto one of those trading cards, and that's where I saw it. Because those trading cards were famous for having scenes that weren't exactly the right angles or from the movies and stuff like that. They were famous for
Oh,
that.
I know.
when was a kid.
Yes, I know which trading cards you're talking about. But
They had the blue. They were blue bordered and red bordered.
yeah,
tons of
bubble gum in them. I can't. It wasn't tops, I don't think. But
I don't know. I was like, again, like little kid, and this is my mom giving me everything Star Wars just to keep me happy. All Star Wars merch there was. Boom, here you go, kid, enjoy it. Because that's what I wanted. All I wanted was Star Wars merch. And it was after that it said, okay, here have some GI Joes, have some Transformers, have some He-Man, have some Voltron. But first, for the first several years of my life, once you got past play school crap, it was Star Wars toys. That's all I wanted was Star Wars toys, and that's what I got. But all right, so Jed, the hallway scene. You said it's your favorite scene in the movie.
Yes. So the reason I love Return of the Jedi the most out of the original trilogy is the emotional stuff between Luke and Vader. That little arc in there, the redemption of Anakin, and just their interactions. Very character-based for me. A lot of my love of this movie is purely character-based. And this scene, I think, exemplifies it the most because up to this point, the audience, they knew Luke had felt these things about Vader. And they'd never seen it, though. As the audience, we'd never really seen a moment of Vader vulnerability, at least to this extent. And he's almost kind. His voice softens quite a bit. He says some things like that just lead you to believe
for me, son.
Exactly. It proves Luke right. This is the moment where the audience is like, Luke, your plan might work. There is good in him. It's the first time the audience can really see that. And we talk a lot about James Earl Jones. We talk a lot about Sebastian Shaw. But this is the scene that David Prowse really shines. He's incredibly underrated in Vader. A lot of people don't know who David Prowse is. They know James Earl Jones, and that's about it. But he just gives an incredible, subtle, physical performance. It's so physical, just like we talked about earlier about Luke squeezing his hand. Vader squeezing Luke's lightsaber. I get emotion from that.
That's pride. That's pride. He's looking at you've constructed a new lightsaber. Your skills are complete. That's pride, plain and simple.
And of course, James Earl Jones, like I talked about, he softened his voice. There's a ton of acting in it. His voice breaks even a couple times, and there's love and pride in his speech. But David Prowse, his physical mannerisms are just on full display, and he deserves so much more credit than he gets. But there's so many emotions going on there. It's so pivotal to the plot. It's like the scene in the movie that I'm most on the edge of my seat, ready to go, watching intently. And that was even as a kid. Like, of course, as a kid, you're normally absorbed in the action, and I love the action. But this was one of the first scenes in my childhood life where just people talking was just as impactful, interesting, and compelling to me as crazy lightsaber battles. It was the first one that I can remember being like, ooh, I'm actually listening to what people are saying at a very, very young age.
Mustang, you look at this. This is how you start a third act. This is how you started that. You have the two main players of this saga right here, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, father and son. This sets the stage for everything about what's about to happen. And you realize
everybody believe.
Well, but you realize the battle that is about to commence. There are three battles going on in the Battle of Endor. There's the space battle, there's the battle on the forest or on the bunker, and there's the battle in the throne room. If the light side of the Force, represented by the rebels, if they lose any of those, it's over. Because, of course, if they don't blow up the Death Star wins. If they can't shut down the shield, can't blow the Death Star. But if somehow, and I'm not going to just say I'm taking Vader out, if Palpatine lives, or in my perspective, from my perspective, is enforced after he is killed there to flee to Biss and take his time to regather his strength for a good 6 years. It's about 6-7 years before he to get himself back together again and reconstitute a sizable force to push back out and start another civil war. They don't win because Palpatine was literally the center of everything. He controlled everything, and without him to keep the Moffs and the admirals in check, going forward, they immediately reverted to warlords and started bickering amongst themselves. And the remaining few years between Battle of Endor and the beginning of the Thrawn trilogy, it was crushing the warlords. The war didn't end in that. That's one of my beefs if you're watching special edition version 1.0 or 2.0, where you show the celebration scenes across the planets. That can't happen. The war didn't end. It got only worse for a few years because suddenly it became chaos with the different warlords staking their claim to around the galaxy. But in that moment there, you realize that if Luke doesn't win, it's going to be over because Palpatine will quickly regain control and he will use the Force to guide everything, control everything from the Death Star. And that's why it's important. But Jed is all right. It's everything about that scene works, from the exchanges, the inflection that James Earl Jones uses, and Prowse's body language. Just like at the end of Empire, what we talked about last week when he stops, looks out the window to where the Falcon had gone to hyperspace, and then looks away, realizing there's that emotional pain. He has a moment there after Luke is escorted to the shuttle, where he from looking back, where he's looking out the window, and to Jed's point, to the chat making that, it's too late for me, son. It's eating at him. Deep down inside, he doesn't want to do this. I see the Anakin on Mustafar crying in that moment, now using the entire saga as a backdrop. He hates what he has become. He hates being Darth Vader. That name no longer has any meaning to me. No, but he's lying to himself, and he's trying to lie to Luke right there because of that moment, Luke got under his skin, reminding him, you're a father. You never got to really be my father, but you're my father, and I care about you. I'm going to save you. I'm going to bring you back. And at one point he says, before he said it's too late for me, son, he says, come with me. How's that for a powerful moment? Luke is ready to just run, abandon everything if his father will just come with him. They can both leave the battlefield, and everybody else can maybe get it done. But no, it's too late for me. The Emperor is your master now. It's powerful, and it's really well written. People shit on the dialogue of the OT a lot. I find it compelling, and there are certain moments where it rises, and it really hits home.
You're reading so much into it from knowledge you have from the EU and from what's gone on after, and you need to remember to look at it from the simplicity of the time. That conversation in that hallway is something throughout all film history that was very important. And Jed brought it up. It was the tone and inflection. We knew that Vader could be turned. And Luke's telling him to go with him. It meant join him in the fight against the Empire. He wanted his father to be there with him. It was that simple. You can't look at the future. You can't look at the big fleet. You can't look at the EU. You have to look at the moment and how beautiful it was.
When I'm talking about that, I'm not looking at the EU at all when I just talked about that. The only thing I looked at is said, now I will see Anakin crying because Vader hates himself. But I still think that conversation alone, even if you think of Mustafar, I feel perfectly confident in feeling that Vader hates himself without any influence of that.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is he hates it, but you're putting a lot of EU and the fleet and everything else into it.
I don't think
there's not necessarily a problem with that either. It just deepens his connection to it. It's absolutely fully on display. Like you're talking about Mustang, the movie has everything you need, but there's an extra layer that these other aspects of the franchise give him extra depth for it. And
yes, but
I
we
don't
didn't
see that
have
as a
that
negative.
at the time. I'm just judging it on what we had at the time, not looking at anything else. The time,
and
that's why that scene is so beautiful.
But they're both very legitimate perspectives, though. Like I don't have any EU love, and that scene is just powerful on its own. But from the prequel context, I can speak to the prequel context. I do think it helps that scene. It's just the added context is just like cool secondary, like connecting dots that were retroactively included. So I think both perspectives are entirely legitimate to say, let's look at the scene individually and show how amazing it is, but let's also look at the scene with the later context and show how much more amazing it can be with this extra context. I think they're just different perspectives and both entirely legitimate ways to look at the scene.
Well, I don't think I think Vader didn't want to turn good because he's trying to push the goodness down. And we know from the last movie, he was perfectly happy to rule the galaxy as father and son. That was as Darth Vader, that's his goal. But as Anakin, that wasn't his goal. Deep down inside,
It's
Anakin
the conflict
is still there.
inside.
Yeah,
it's that wonderful conflict.
And that hallway scene, like you said, again, and I don't think I was influencing my statements from the EU when I said it. The conversation does imply everything without any further later on layers of context, like Jed said. It is all on display there. But in the body movements, the angles, everything shows that when Luke says let go of your hate, it's all right there. It's all on display there that Vader is at that point in that conversation. He's making excuses to Luke in that conversation because Luke immediately got under his skin. And I think Vader can't handle the presence of Luke because it's shifting that spark of Anakin inside him.
I think knowing this is where I'll jump a little bit into the prequels. He's seen Padme right there in front of him. He's seen the thing he loved. And I think if you take it into that context, how much more can that be eating at the man to have the greatest love possibly in the galaxy? And he's seen it and he's conflicted. He can't go back is how he feels. It just makes every bit of that scene even more powerful when you know that part of it.
If you want to, if we're going to take a step out and bring in that kind of flavor context where George added to it, again, if we take ourselves out of the original moment and add in everything, Vader still thinks he killed Padme at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He doesn't know.
Does he ever find out that he
As
didn't?
a Force Ghost, he probably knows once he passes on. He would know, because when you're a Force Ghost, you know everything at that point. You're near
You're one with the universe.
You're one with the Force, and you know you're one with the living Force, and you know everything going on, which is why Force Ghosts can't participate, why they're not allowed to, because they are literally avatars of the living Force. They're not supposed to interact. They can talk, they can share some knowledge, but they can't really interact and fully affect events, and that's why Disney's stupid. But so I would say at that point, again, if we go outside the knowledge, outside the confines of the original release, and bring in all the lore, he still thinks he killed Padme, which is why he hates. That's part of it. One could make the argument that's why he hates himself. That's why he's filled with so much hate and loathing.
Stephen Watson brings up a good point.
Okay, no. Here's the thing. Stephen Watson. Vader was still Darth Vader at that point. He's not Anakin at that point. Now we're going to skip ahead. He is still Darth Vader. He's still doing the bidding of his master. He's still trying to get it over at this point. Because at one point, Luke says, during the hallway conversation, he says, if I'm not going to turn, you'll be forced to kill me. Vader says, if that's your destiny. Vader's still being the good soldier at that right there. He is not Anakin until he is Vader right up to the moment where Palpatine is force electrocuting Luke, and Luke screams, "Father, please help me." And the beautiful cuts back and forth from Luke to Palpatine going to Vader, to Luke, to Palpatine, Vader, back and forth, and Vader going like this. And it's in that last moment as Luke is screaming, as the music reaches its pinnacle, and you get the Star Wars theme that plays, the hopeful theme, where then, boom, then he is Anakin in that moment, because though everything that has been happening culminates that every conversation he and Luke has had from the hallway till now, Luke's refusal to fight him, Luke's love and his feelings for those he cares about, that in that moment, watching his son, the son that he never got to raise, it just breaks through. That little kernel of Anakin that is left in there then grabs on and pushes Darth Vader away. In that moment, he is Anakin Skywalker again. And he does what he should have done a decade ago, 18 years ago, and kills Palpatine. Kills him. And that was it. So that was the That's the moment he's Anakin. And I love that. That's taking away favorite scene. That is my favorite moment of this entire movie, when he becomes Anakin Skywalker and completes his destiny and returns balance to the Force. And now let me ask this quick, because Jedi, so you have to go very soon. Original edition versus special edition. We're not going to break down all little things. That's going to drag on for that. But I want to talk about this then, since the focus of this has been right now. We didn't talk about Luke and Vader a lot in the last movie. We really drilled down on here because that's what I wanted to do today. You bring a great point. Let me go back one thing. So Vader mentioning Leia, that was Vader trying to get Luke to turn to the dark side, because Jed, in that moment, Luke goes full dark side. He uses
the rage.
That is where he beats Vader. Yes, at that point, Luke is a better duelist than Vader at this point. His skills are better. He's faster, he's younger, he's stronger. And that's why Luke is kind of toying with Vader. Is that fair to say in this fight, Luke's kind of toying with Vader?
Yes.
Up until that point, I could see an argument for that, especially with him like hiding underneath the bleachers, trying to...
But he owns him in front of the throne when he knocks him the stairs. Luke's in control of this entire fight. He's in control until his emotions get out of whack, because Vader and Palps are kind of playing mind games late. And Vader's trying to make him tip over to the dark side there. He's still Darth Vader then. He's not Anakin.
Right. I wouldn't call it toying. Toying would not be the word that I use.
Okay.
I definitely agree that he's
holding
like in
back,
control.
Holding back.
Yeah, like
fair?
He wants to see if he can turn. He's delaying. He's trying to buy himself time, either through helping, giving the rebels time to do what they need to do, and give himself time to turn Vader. But I think toying makes it seem a little bit more.
I used to talk back.
Sinister.
Right here, I've got this is special edition 1.0 right here. This disc. The no is not in this. That was added in the Blu-rays. Special edition 2.5 or something like that. The no in the original was not in the original special edition. So that's a later thing, which is easily pushed away. And so that doesn't win. And now let's ask this. I mean, because there's a lot of hate. Legatus brings it up right there. How do we feel about Hayden Christensen being brought in as Force Ghost Anakin at the end in special edition versus original? You hate it?
I hate it with a passion.
Okay. It devalues Sebastian Shaw's. Is that his name? I feel like I'm close with his name, Sebastian Shaw, but it devalues him. It takes away from him, and I think it just makes more sense. And Luke, there's a deeper connection to Sebastian's version of him. It feels awkward. It feels weird. Like, yes, that is Anakin. That was when Anakin was good.
I've heard the case that he does that because when he's Anakin again, that's Anakin. I've heard that case.
It does make a certain sort of sense. I more have an issue with it from the meta perspective of disrespecting Sebastian. That's my bigger issue with it. From in lore, I can see an argument for it, but then there's the balance of Luke's reaction to him. Luke would have a stronger connection to the Sebastian version of him. So I don't know. I'm very conflicted on it. It's definitely
I go either way. It depends on my mood. When I originally saw it, I was like, "What is this?" What? Because in the special edition 1.0, you see, this is special edition 2.0. 1.0 didn't have that because they hadn't released Revenge of the Sith yet. It hadn't been made yet. So this is 2.0 where it's got Hayden put in at the end.
Yeah. Just needs to be David Prowse. Be done with it. That's what it needed to be.
Well, overall, I think I've never seen the full theatrical cut. I've seen portions of it, like seeing comparisons. So
this one right here, that's the original theatrical cut.
From the versions of the movie I've seen, from the special edition 1, 2, Blu-ray, and Disney Plus version, I would say special edition 1 is the one that I prefer the best. 1.0. I'm sure theatrical would be my favorite, but I can't have an opinion on that.
Talking about special edition 1.0, I never had a problem with special 1.0, and some people shit on it. I actually like the music video Jabba Palace thing where the Max Rebo band and Sly Snoodle are all digitized. I like that for some reason.
When we get the nip slip
later. Well, yeah, they get the nip slip because you get the extended. They have put the footage back in of the Twi'lek dancer getting pushed down, getting dropped in the pit. But I never had a problem with that. But with the extension of that and the Sarlacc were the only changes in Special Edition 1.0 to Jedi. Everything in Act 2 and Act 3 were untouched, basically.
And I like the changes to the Sarlacc. I've
Okay,
seen the
it makes it
version
a
where
little
you
more
don't
dangerous.
see it. Yeah, it makes it a little more dangerous, and I feel a little disconnected from it in this version that I've seen of the theatrical cut because you don't really see it very much. It's just a hole in the ground, like
You
they
know,
never actually cut to it. So
At some point, I will. I'll make sure I can get you. I can make a copy of mine and I can give it to you, and so you can see it. Just see research
yeah,
purposes. Research.
I
Purposes.
tried to find it this time, but
Yeah.
I ended up
Oh yeah,
watching.
it's hard. It's hard.
I
This
got the
this right
Blu-ray
here-
one this time.
Yeah, this one is hard. This was released in a very small window. This slim 3-pack I got at the beginning of last. No, was I in Florida? Yeah, I think it was 08 or 09. I think it was 08 or 09. 08 or 09. I don't know, but that's when these were released, and they had made the small change. But this is one of the best purchases I eventually made because at that point I thought, oh, they're never gonna make a Blu-ray. It's $30, $10 for each movie, and then I discovered I had both versions of each movie in here, original cut and special edition 2.0. So to me, it's $30 for 6 movies. That was a great deal, and I've always been happy. Even though the video quality is not that great compared to clean Blu-ray, I'll sacrifice that for the purity of these 6 versions, which are not abominable, with the exception of Han shooting, of Greedo shooting first, or Han shooting, with the exception of that. All right, real quick, we've been at it for over an hour anyway, so the other stuff, rest of the movie, it's kind of all surface level stuff, if you ask me. Han, Leia.
You guys can keep going without me. I know you want a 3-hour stream.
I know. I mean, I'll give you one more thing before you got to go. One more thing. You mentioned it, the space battle, the Battle of Endor in space. 1983. They improved on the special effects of Empire Strikes Back. This is the most vivid use of space combat in Star Wars to that point. It was great.
It feels so 3-dimensional. That's what I love about it. Like the New Hope, the Battle of Yavin, that space battle at the end when they destroy the Death Star, it feels like a World War II dogfight. That is the inspiration for it, obviously, but it feels very linear. Like there's gravity, everyone's facing the same way, everyone's going from left to right or whatnot. But with this one, you're weaving through the Death Star, you're under the Death Star. There's the Star
Getting
Destroyers
close to
coming.
Star Destroyers and
There's just so much dynamic environments. If ships are going in weird directions, gravity, there isn't a down. There's not a universal consistent down, and that's a big thing with me in space battles. I love there not being a down. If you can show me a space battle without gravity, I will be on board for the visuals of it. I love that extra little effort they put into it, and just like you said, the special effects are so much improved. I think this movie, I think the entire original trilogy holds up from a visual standpoint. Like I don't care about getting the Blu-ray version of it. I'm not much of a visual guy or graphic guy to begin with, but I just think the effects hold up better than a lot of modern stuff and more than enough to be still incredibly engaging.
All right, so since you have to go, what is your score for Return of the Jedi?
So I will admit that, yes, this is my favorite Star Wars movie. It's not as tight from a script standpoint in a plot wise as Empire. So I will be giving it a lower score than Empire, even though I love it more. So I will be giving this one a 9.1. It does have some issues. Its character work is phenomenal. Plot is where the issues mainly reside. Empire is better, but Return of the Jedi, I feel pumped. It feels epic. I get excited when I watch it. My emotional investment is far superior in this one to any Star Wars movie by a lot. And I didn't think that would be the case after how much I enjoyed Empire last week more than I had previously. But Return just still carries.
All right. Well, Jed, you have a good rest of your evening, and we will catch you some point next week.
Well, tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, it's Sunday, isn't it? God damn it. I'm not having a good day. Give me a break. I'll see you tomorrow. Get the hell out of here.
Hey, Jed.
Go do your real job. Get the hell out of here.
There's a present for you in private chat, Jed.
I saw it. I'll definitely check that out. But do you want to watch announce next week while I'm here?
Oh, yeah, sure. Next week, Saturday Night Drive-In, Jed's Choice. We are doing, Jed, what are we doing?
We are doing the 90s classic from Jim Carrey, one of my favorite performances from Jim Carrey, The Truman Show. I love The Truman Show, so I'm excited to talk about it. I know you have very interesting thoughts on it. Very different than mine.
I have
So I'm
thoughts on Jim
excited for the
Carrey.
conversation.
I could be objective about the movie. Don't worry, I can be objective. I've seen
Yeah.
Truman Show a bunch of times. Don't
Yeah,
worry. It's not
I'm
a
excited for the discussion on it because
Yeah.
it is a bit of a different perspective. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll see you guys tomorrow and then next week for the
tomorrow.
Truman Show.
It's Saturday, Adam. All right, take it easy, dude. Have a good night.
Yeah, good night.
All right, all right. We'll hang on for a few more minutes here because I do want to bring up a couple things. I don't want to just the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie. We mentioned we touched on Tatooine, Jabba's palace. That is, I always enjoy it because it's pure character work, Mustang. It's pure character work.
Oh God, yes.
Where you've got everybody trying to get the family back together. And I love the set pieces. And when I say set pieces, I mean Luke's chess pieces in that whole plan. As you see the sprinkling of everybody there. Lando's hiding. When Chewie and Leia arrive, if you're quick enough to catch it, you see Chewie throws the guy down, which shows Chewie's not really bound and he's in control there. Luke doesn't have his lightsaber. He has his lightsaber when R2 shows up with the image, but he doesn't have his lightsaber when he arrives. Little things that Luke had everything in play there. And I really like it. It's just it goes back to the whole Luke is in complete control of this the whole time. And
we get to see the Force being played out in many different ways by Luke as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you have the shock of the Rancor for the first time, and technically at the time seeing Jabba for the first time. Everything about it is this nice little contained story that just ties up the one plot from the last movie before we move on to the main story of the Empire versus the Rebellion.
Seeing Jabba was a shock. We all thought he was a humanoid at least.
That
was a shock.
Here. Sorry. So I was checking here. Algram the Strong just commenting here that Luke isn't the only one holding back. Vader wasn't going all out, and he was much closer to giving up his Sith and that's what Lucas had said. If that's what Lucas said in conversations, then I take that as legitimate. I always feel that Vader was a little bit holding back, but I still have always felt that Luke had already progressed as a duelist and as a physical specimen of a Jedi. He had advanced a lot farther in the 6 months since Bespin before the confrontation in the throne room, and that he was overpowering Vader a little bit. Because I think if Vader had been throwing it too much, Palpatine would have sensed it, and he would have intervened. If Vader had been holding back too much. Because Palpatine is, as evil as he is, his senses are very strong. That's one of his special abilities as a Sith. He can get into your head, and he can know what you're doing. So I think if he would have jumped in sooner, because he wanted Vader to be defeated, and he wanted Luke. That was his end game, like you guys said. That was his end goal. But all right, so back to what we're talking about now. Tatooine's good, and everybody else, it's really surface level with the rest of the group. Is that fair to say? Because Han and Leia had their story in the last movie.
Well, there's one thing that I love to bring up to people. It's Billy D. Williams was at the height of his career. And he took a step back. Yeah, he took a step back in this movie and didn't make it the Billy D. Williams show. And he could have easily do it.
Mm-hmm. But Lando was fantastic in this.
Oh yeah,
how's this for an interesting? This struck me as I was watching it yesterday. You realize, with the exception of the cockpit, this is the first time in all three movies that nobody physically interacted with a Millennium Falcon set piece, with the exception of the cockpit for Mindor. Because when they're in the hangar bay on Akbar's flagship, that's a painted background behind Harrison Ford and Billy D.
Yes,
that's not a prop background. It's a piece of art behind them. So I realized that no one actually touches a Millennium Falcon set piece except for the cockpit.
That is true. I didn't really stop to think about that.
That occurred to me today. Or yesterday. It occurred to me yesterday. Yeah. And
There's so many things that I thought about. It's like, okay, if we upgraded how much did it make to today? It'd be 1.5 billion. There's so many things like that I've thought about.
I'm thinking about the story. I don't care about the numbers. And yes, Al Simmons' Hellspawn EU is real Star Wars.
Yes, it is.
And it's all right there waiting for you. If you haven't read it, it's all right there. What are you waiting for? But Han and Leia's story, it's kind of just the capper. Although it is, as I said earlier, we get the full evolution of their characters in this.
Yeah.
Leia is not bitch on wheels anymore because she's actually happy. She's happy. She's not fighting her feelings of anything anymore. Everything's in its place. And she's happy.
My second favorite line in the entire movie was when Leia told Han, "He's my brother."
Yeah.
That was powerful.
That's a moment because suddenly that means everything is where it should be. And Han, yeah. Now it is widely understood. Harrison Ford semi-mails it in on this one. I mean, I've seen enough times. There are moments where he's really being Han, and moments where he's kind of just phoning it in a little bit. But
he was already pissed off he didn't get killed. He was pissed he didn't get the death.
Yeah, he wanted Han Solo dead, and frankly, I'm glad he didn't get his way. I'm eternally glad, because then that would fuck up the EU, and it would fuck everything up. But he wanted that's the one moment of an actor not seeing the bigger picture, seeing the bigger picture of everything. And you know what? I'm gonna. Everybody's been making fun of the Harrison Ford stuff the past couple of days with all the news. I will forgive Harrison Ford for that because Harrison Ford feels like that just about everything. He doesn't give a fuck.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't give a fuck. A lot of the times he's in it for the paycheck. So I will forgive it. And
I think the last movie he did out of love regarding Henry was probably the last movie he did out of love.
And that's a good movie. That's a good movie.
Yes, it is.
Even though I'm not a fan of Annette Bening, that's a good movie. That's a really good movie. Despite that, for years that bothered me. When I learned that little bit of nugget that Harrison Ford hated that Han didn't die, that bothered me for a while. And this is prior to black pilling in 2014. I've gotten over that. I don't care anymore. I'm able to separate that and understand that at least he showed up. You know, at least he showed up and did the movie. At least he came in there and did the movie. But okay, but Han really doesn't really have much to do. He's just there to kind of be Han. There's no Han story to tell, like there was last movie. There's no Leia story to tell. Their story ends in Act 1. But I'm okay with
this is Luke and Vader.
It was the Luke and Vader story. That's why it's great about it, and that's why But again, you still get a great evolution of Han right after Luke tells Leia the truth that they're siblings and who Vader is, that he's their father, and he leaves to start, and we start Act 3. When Han comes out and starts to bitch at her a little bit, come on, tell me. She says, I want to be left alone. No, tell me. What, you could tell Luke? Is that who you could tell what's wrong with you? And she turns away and she's going to cry. And he's like, oh, whatever. And starts to walk away, but then stops and turns around and goes back and says, I'm sorry. And she holds him. That's the complete evolution of Han. It's not, yes. It is now not just about him. He's able to care for somebody else's feelings, even if it's bothering him. Because right there, it's a minor thing because he thinks the love triangle is still happening. He thinks that's still a thing, when in fact, the other two participants know it's not a thing. He thinks there's still possibly a problem that Luke might take his girl. But it isn't. But I love that. It's just that little bit. And then later on, we get great Han moments. Han, quick on the field, realizes that Chewie and the AT-ST, they can take advantage of that and use its communication ability to lure them out. I mean, Han still has a great moments, but it's just Han being Han. It's not in-depth storytelling. Like you said, though, Luke and Vader is what it's all about. And that's why I feel good at this point, for the sake there's only a couple of us left here, I feel good about glossing over the rest of it, because we could talk about great moments, cool moments with that, but we could do that next Thursday. We could do that next Thursday when hopefully we've got more people to go nuts over this stuff, rather than. But we're talking.
There's something I've got to bring up though. For the kids watching this, the young people watching this right now, the kiss in Empire was so powerful in this movie because in our generation, mine and Adam's, that incest was so taboo that it just was incredible for all this to, and a relief going, oh, they found out and then they're not. It was that for our generation was, I remember my grandmother, who Southern woman, was forgiving because she was not forgiving until then. It was this meant something to all of us. So this movie, I get mad at people who try and interject stuff that wasn't there at the time because you have to take this movie as it was at the time, not past, not present, not anything else, at the time.
It's his real sister, not his stepsister.
Yeah, you got it.
Hey, stepsister, hey, that's a different ball game. But real sister, yeah.
Yeah, it's and Stephen, I can tell you right now, Harrison's got multiple interviews about that, and he's answered it multiple ways. He doesn't have an answer.
He doesn't give a shit. He never. He just doesn't care. The line from the interview that everyone's been playing again lately. I don't care. That is the truth. He just doesn't care. It. And I'm gonna echo what Ryan Kindle said on FNT and in G&G Daily on Friday. We all wish Harrison Ford cared more about Star Wars. For old school fans, we really wish he cared more about it. But he became a megastar, and he became more than just Star Wars. And frankly, yeah, that was kind of his start. And maybe he wants to. He never really wanted to forget about it. I mean, if he said he thought it was the acting was thin, he gave an outstanding performance in Empire Strikes Back. Harrison Ford's performance in Empire Strikes Back was full of passion and emotion and meat on the bones because that was Han Solo's story and it was Leia's story. This one wasn't their story. So you know what? Fine. Han's a little thin in Return of Jedi because it's not his story anymore. And that's, I think, the point that at least some people need to understand. In the first movie, in The New Hope, it's kind of everybody's story. It's the gang coming together. In Empire, Luke is kind of on the periphery, training with Yoda. And it's a very straightforward thing. All the complicated stuff is going on with Han and Leia, the depth to it. But here in the third one, it's Luke's story because Luke got semi-sidelined for most of Empire, in my opinion. And now here it is. It's the culmination. It's facing the Emperor. It's saving his father. It's meaningful at this point. Han and Leia, they have their own job to do, and it's pretty straightforward. There's no complicated twists and turns. You get that shield generator down. So Lando and Akbar can get the fleet into position and blow the hell out of the Death Star. It's a complete story. Yeah. And you have to, and people, I think people maybe unfairly complain, oh, this and that, it's so thin, bad writing. No, the writing and the story is focused where it's supposed to be focused. And that's what you need to understand. And I hope I'm saying that with enough objectivity. So, but
your objectivity is good, but you and I are close enough to the same generation that we see a lot of people younger than us that didn't have this as our only source. You had the EU more than me to a degree. And they look at it and they try and judge it on standards of possibly today, possibly what they've been taught in school today, different things. Whereas we had good storytelling, truth, facts. Those are what we had back then. Nobody cared about anything else. This was good storytelling. This had a start, an end. It had emotion. It had, God, there was parts we were angry, parts we cried. This is what a movie's supposed to do. I can't tell you the last movie in the last 12 years that has had that kind of impact on me.
Dude, I still get I get that emotional spike. I get a feeling between my eyes and my nose when Vader becomes Anakin again. I got it today when I finished watching the movie. When he becomes Anakin Skywalker and saves his son, I get the feels hard because it's like, oh shit, do it, yes. And I have to say, it is made more powerful thanks to the prequels. I think it's a more powerful scene. The prequels
I will give you that
more
because
powerful. And
I'll give you that.
When you put it all together, when you've seen Anakin's story and Lucas is on record, these 6 movies are Anakin's story. It's his fall and then his redemption. That's what it's supposed to be. So to see, if you take that into account, I get it's powerful. And here, Father, please help me, and him looking back and forth, and then again, John Williams scores it perfectly when he becomes Anakin Skywalker again, and the Star Wars theme, the hero Star Wars theme plays, picks him up. It's you do it, man. You do what you were supposed to do before everything got in there.
If we would not have had the love story, the true love story that we were able to see blossom in the prequel, this would not. The impact would still be there for all of us.
Oh yeah,
but that made it even better.
Yeah, knowing how far he fell and could come back in that moment and be redeemed is uplifting, and these movies are about hope. This entire trilogy is about hope, and that's what I want people to hopefully take away from this in these times where maybe you're blackpilling on Star Wars. No, you need blackpill on Disney Star Wars. Real Star Wars is still there. It will always be there. It was there first. You were there first. I was there first. We were all there first. They cannot take it away from us. If you didn't watch it for today's show and you've just come along the stream, maybe it's the first time, maybe you're checking me out, maybe you're listening to us talk, maybe you're going to go back and watch the Empire stream from last week, maybe you're going to watch us on Thursday. If you're watching this and you have that little bit of an itch, look inwards to yourself and think, maybe these guys are right. Maybe Star Wars isn't dead. Disney
didn't always have it.
Real Star Wars is right here. Real Star Wars is right there, waiting for you to enjoy it and be fulfilling. I mean, every single arc. I mean, yes, the Star Wars keeps going and going with the EU, but every single arc, from the birth of the New Republic to the War of the Vong, to the Legacy arc, to the Fate of the Jedi, they all have for most part definitive endings. Yeah, at the end of Fate of the Jedi, there's some things left open that they were going to go through with, and thank you Disney for ruining everything. But all the previous arcs, they have endings. There's endings, it's definitive close. If they didn't go on, you could still feel it. You can get that moment of our heroes standing with each other. And I counted it in this movie. It's at least 5 instances in Return of the Jedi, 4 or 5 instances where the Holy Trinity is together on screen, Mustang. Not hard.
Oh, God, yeah.
Not hard. Not hard at all.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't say it as we close it here. Goddamn, Carrie Fisher in that gold bikini. Dude, I want to say something too. Remember, by the time I was old enough to really appreciate that, it was still perfection. When I was old enough to appreciate it, it was still my number one fantasy as a kid. Princess Leia in the gold bikini, and she was fit. Oh, had to be mentioned. Had to be mentioned. Hey, it's one of my shows. Of course, we're going to mention boobs at some point, so it had to be mentioned. All right, Mustang, do you have anything else you want to bring up before we put this to a close?
Yeah. Just want to say, all these companies that are making stuff today that they're political agenda driven, remember, the pendulum has been known to swing back and forth throughout history. Don't hate everything that has come out of those studios from the past that was so good, that made so many writers what they are and who they are today. And don't hate Hollywood of the past for what it is today. Go watch those old things. If you're an aspiring writer, if you've got an imagination, just go watch the good stuff. Go watch the old stuff that had story, had heart, had caring, had compassion. Rekindle that love in you for those things. And if you are that aspiring writer, put it down on paper. Adam is a writer. He's the worst fucking person in the world for promoting his own shit. I'm reading his book. It's pretty dang good.
Promote yet? It's not. I can't afford to do the crowdfund yet. I just can't. That's a problem.
Yeah, but you can promote we need more people. It.
Well, all I can share is the one chapter. I tried. The channel. I love everybody here, but the channel's not big enough. That's the problem. The channel's not big enough right now. I just put it on the back burner. That's all. Anyway, you were saying
everybody keep
You were praising me. Keep going though. That's good.
But no, it is the honest truth, guys and gals. Go read the old stuff, and don't let identity politics and don't let whatever the heck they are today take you and say, I don't want to watch anything Star Wars because Disney didn't have anything to do with it in 1977. They sure didn't have anything to do with it in 83. Disney didn't have anything to do with a lot of things until 2012. And that's where you could say, okay, I'll never tell anybody to boycott something. I think they're the stupidest thing in the world, because how many times have we seen boycott Walmart and the next day you're at Walmart?
Oh, I've never said boycott
just don't
Walmart.
Go see it.
I love they have good prices. I take advantage of that. I have only so
okay,
much
people say boycott Amazon, and then I know they're buying stuff from
Same
Amazon
thing.
because I see it on their Twitter.
You can't get certain things these days. Amazon's the only way. I can't find the perfect basil that I use, Lighthouse basil. It's freeze-dried. It's fantastic. Costco stopped selling it. I can only get it on Amazon. And without that, my sauce does not taste the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, don't say you're going to boycott all this stuff. Just simply say, I am not going to give this company my money until they change. And if you start saying that, it's realizing that down the road, you're going to have to do it, because I have seen friends of mine that said, I'm going to boycott that. And then the other people see them with it and they're like, I thought you were going to do that. And then they're like, well, I had to have, don't be that, well, I had to have it. Just be honest with yourself and say, I'm not going to go get the junk until they change.
Yeah,
you're the ones that'll make the change happen.
I've got a problem
stop giving them money.
To something I said a few months ago or last year. Insomniac Games with Sony Spider-Man 2. I'm still pissed at how they behaved during the whole Florida Bill stuff. And Spider-Man 2 is coming up, and part of me really wants to play it, but I said I wasn't going to buy it. I don't want to support them because they behaved atrociously to people online with their stances on that, and attacking people and defending groomers. So I'm really bothered that here's this game that I've wanted for years coming out probably at the end of the year, and I'm not going to be able to get it right now because I'm angry. I don't want to give Insomniac my money. That's rough. Yeah. Because the only other thing that's keeping me kind of placated, not getting, is that I know the game's going to make me play as Miles Morales, and I don't want to play as Miles Morales anyway. So, but I am going to miss Venom. I want to see Venom so bad. Anyway, sorry. That's just my example of the moment for that. Where I hope I stick to my guns. I hope I stick to my guns. I do hope I stick to my guns. We'll see.
Yeah, but you're also got to be a businessman, and if the channel wants you to play it,
this
is where, as a businessman myself, I would never back myself into a corner of doing anything like that, because I may get mad at a vendor. Yeah.
I don't want to be a hypocrite.
I can't do it, because as a vendor, I always was like, okay, this vendor may piss me off, but I may need him again.
Why do you think I'm? One of the reasons I don't do politics on the channel is because I want to sell my books to everybody. I mean, it's pretty obvious how I feel about things. It's pretty obvious how I feel about things, but I try not to talk about it too much.
And it's a smart move. Politics doesn't match. I have got on a few friends of ours lately about, hey, you guys need to stay away from the politics and religion. Those are two subjects that we were raised. Don't talk about those two things in polite company.
You leave the front door. You're supposed to leave that stuff at the front door when you get into gaming, all kinds of stuff, and that has been forgotten. But that's.
Hey, I'm replaying. I am, as we are talking, I am re-downloading Hogwarts, and I am going to pick up and start playing it again on my second playthrough with. Well, it's, as we all know, I've played all the characters and mods, but I'm actually going to do my second legitimate playthrough.
You know, I saw an article that there was supposed to be a morality system in place for using for the bad curses. They were supposed to. There was supposed to be a morality thing involved with that, but they took it out apparently.
Let me put it this way. Here's my morality. There is a mod that makes the girls have gigantic titties, and guess what I'm downloading before I start playing?
Anyway, we have clearly gone off topic, which means we're done, which is how this works on the show. We also, because I put a pin on it, because this Thursday, May 25th, at some point in the early evening, Star Wars Day stream. Join us there. Al Simmons, Hellspawn. We'll talk EU then. I don't pin myself down on what book of that, but there will be EU talk. Mustang and I have been sitting on a particular conversation about that for 6 months now? We've been sitting on this.
at least that long. We're
going to finally be able to talk about it. Our what if scenario concerning how Disney might have been able to do it right, but we'll get to that. And also, it's going to be an open door. Hopefully, other people will join us. Other friends of the channel who joined us last year. Should be good. Have a lot of fun. Anyway, Mustang, what is your
our scores?
What is your score?
This one is a 9.5. It did drop a little bit for me, and it dropped because the Ewok scenes, they got a little bit too cheesy for me.
Okay.
At the time, I'd have gave this a 10, but as I've got to be critical in these reviews, they were a little cheesy. I mean, they took me out of it a little bit. So
that's
just
fair.
A little bit there.
I am also at a 9.5 for the things I've said. Harrison Ford's kind of half-assed a performance at times takes me out of it a little bit because he's not really giving it his all. Let's see. What was my other complaint? At the time, and I've said what? No. At the time, even when I was younger, so this is legitimately younger, I would have liked a little more of the throne room battle, a little more of the duel than what we got. I always wanted a little bit more. And
what did you want more of?
I just wanted a little more dueling, just a little more dueling, just like another minute and a half, just a little over a minute and a half, just a couple more exchanges. We're showing a little bit more of how much Luke was had grown as a fighter. That's all. Let's see. Now, this is a criticism for that has to come around in current editions. I hate the new version of the ending sequence. I hate it. I like the original Yub Nub. I like my Yub Nub. I like my Yub Nub. I don't like the special edition change. That has always bothered me, and I have to drop points because I watch the special edition cut more often than the other one. So that's my small takeaway on that. So it drops down to a 9.5. Also because, again, as we talked about, the characters were the other characters kind of got less to do in terms of character development, even though we've legitimized why and it was fine. There's less of them than what I got in Empire. Empire, I felt everybody got just enough of the storytelling and the character development. In this one, Han and Leia just do their thing, and they're just doing their thing. They're not really there's no story for them, and that's kind of a small thing that's missing for me. I like it, fine the way it is, but I always maybe would have wanted a little bit more. Again, I've never read the novelization of Jedi, so I don't know if they got more to do in that version. But either way, that's it. We're done. I know. Sorry, Stephen Watson. Don't end yet. We're almost to 2 hours, and I need to eat dinner. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight, Mustang. I didn't plan today very well at all. The day fell apart on its own, and therefore I don't have a plan right now. So I have to go scramble for a dinner. Nothing's defrosted, and I can't think of anything else at the moment because it's almost 8 o'clock and I'm hungry now. Either way,
tell people what I had.
You had sugar today. That's what you had.
Oh,
either way,
lots of it.
Return of the Jedi. We already said it. Black pilling isn't good. Don't black pill. Be upset and be angry and put it in its place and deal with it. And when you're done dealing with it and you've come to grips with it and internalized it and come around the other corner, real Star Wars will still be there for you. The same as it was for the past 40 plus years. And on that, thank you, everybody. Chat, we love you. Thank you for being here. It was a great conversation. We hope you'll join us on Thursday for that live stream. Until then, take it easy. Have a good night or day, wherever you may be. And there's a reason I go like this, Mustang. You know why I do all this all the time?
You're a Vulcan?
No. Vulcans don't do this. I'm going to say it now. You know why I do this? Because at the beginning of every video, I always do this. You know why I do this? Gonna give me a guess why?
I have no clue.
Luke does it before he jumps off the sail barge. He gives the 2-fingered salute to R2.
Never stop to think about it.
That's why I do it, everybody. If you ever notice, every one of my videos always started off like this. because Luke goes like this. Yeah, he does it with his left hand because I'm right-handed. That's what I do. That's Luke's signal to R2. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry havoc, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 encoded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi, and all that killer stuff. I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, monk boy.
It's God. Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Al.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.